Dreams, goals, desires, intention. They're all similar, but they're different in a way. You can have a dream. It's either one day or day one. People dream one day, right? But when you make the switch, day one, it changes the actual trajectory. It changes the energy flow. It changes everything about it, because now you take it from the abstract and you bring it into the natural realm.
Welcome to the InPowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Rudi Riekstins, and this is the InPowered Life. Welcome to the InPowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Riekstins. I'm your host, and today we're going to bring you an incredible speaker and author and ex-NFL player who has turned motivational speaker who is creating profound impact out and in the world. This is the InPowered Life Podcast, talking to you about how you can live the most empowered life possible. And I am fascinated with the sport of football and how people can pour so much time, effort, energy, attention to detail so that they can achieve the highest order in life. And if they can do that in a sporting environment, man, where else could they do that? And we get to pick his brain today. The author of The Winning Edge, Shawn Harper. Welcome to the show, Shawn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Let's have fun. Let's go. Let's win. I love that. And I love empower. I love that.
You know, we believe at the InPowered Life Podcast, you have the power internally to create any external environment. And I don't think that's any more true than it is when it comes to the NFL. You know, I came from South Africa and we don't have football in, at least not the way you play football. You know, we have soccer in South Africa that we call football and cricket and rugby, but we don't have the NFL and we don't have the same football rules and regulations. And so to move to another country and have to learn a whole new sporting system was quite an interesting shift and a change for me. And, you know, I left South Africa a diehard fan of all of the South African sports. But when I got to America and I started watching college football and then the National Football League, I fell so deeply in love with the sport because it takes the highest achievers. And that's true in any sport, but I think in the NFL, it's slightly different. It takes the highest achievers, people with the most sound mind and control over their thoughts, their feelings, their body, and their behaviors so that they can achieve something that very few people can achieve. And so I'm just obsessed with the sport and the detail of somebody having to run 40 yards, pivot, and then go to the opposite corner and turn around and the ball lands like right over their shoulder and all of the intricacies that go into the sport. So I would love to ask you, you know, being just a young boy playing in his backyard, what was it like dreaming about wanting to be in the NFL and then eventually one day being able to achieve that? Because that is something that is for the select few.
Right. So growing up, you know, I just had this, you know, this not even the actual dream of playing professional football. I just had the admiration of professional athletes. I mean, sure that the dream was back there in the far in the mind, was just admiring guys playing in the NFL, what it took. And it was interesting because as I grew, the more I understood it and learned about the game and what it actually entails to play at that level. And you said it perfectly, to have that type of that type of discipline, the physical discipline, the mental discipline, the emotional discipline and grit, and to be able to pull it all together and to fire off that ball. You mentioned running 40 yards. Me, it was 5 or 10 yards, just hitting everything, working at the same time, firing on all cylinders. That's quite different from, you know, corporate life, because in corporate life, you know, you can use your mind and, you know, you can get away with other aspects. But playing professional sports is a different animal because you use your mind, you use your emotion, you use your thought process, you use the physical process all at the same time. So every aspect of the game, every aspect of your game has to be hitting at a very high level. Now, let me digress for a second, because there are a lot of similarities in playing professional football and rugby. I spent a lot of time in South Africa, and I had an absolute blast watching the Springboks, and you know, I even have a jersey at home, and just watching how they interacted, watching how they trained, and how they tackled, and there's a lot of similarities there. Playing and watching rugby players, especially those daggone All Blacks. I love the New Zealand All Blacks. So yeah, it's there. Playing at that high level takes a lot. And what I'm learning and what I'm seeing is that people at a high level in life, they do the same thing. It's not compartmentalization. Everything works together for one goal, which is awesome.
That was what I really was hoping we would hear on the podcast episode today. And you did that within the first 4 minutes of the episode. And I think that people can really benefit from that. So if there's somebody that's listening to this and they don't even like sport, or they're not interested in sport, or they don't like the NFL, I want you to make sure that you listen to what are the lessons that we're going to learn through Shawn Harper's lesson or his life's journey that has left the lessons behind. And that is just that, you have to have a very clear intention of who you want to be and what it is that you want to achieve. And in the NFL, what I think separates so many people is that you need to know where you need to be, what the play is. You memorize them, you pre-forecast. There's all these steps that are not present in so many sports. In rugby, you throw the ball, and once that ball's moved from one hand to another, it's free play. And it's more like backyard football. There is strategy and there's preparation, but in the NFL, everything is planned and timed, and everyone needs to know their place. And that's what I think is so powerful about being a high achiever in that sport. And that if we were to study what you did ultimately and apply that into our personal lives or professional lives, how could we then achieve greater results? And that would be the pre-planning and the preparation. I am super curious what was that shift that it took for you going from a young boy who was becoming a man that then decided he was going to take this sport a little more seriously? Because everybody has played a backyard sport at some point in time. But what did it take for you to go from the backyard sport to saying, man, I think I'm going to go for this, and then to ultimately put in the work to be one of the select few?
Right. Dreams, goals, desires, intentions, right? They're all similar, but they're different in a way. Okay. You can have a dream. This is what I'm dreaming about. This is what I'm fantasizing about. One day, this is, one of the things that, my executive wrote down one day is that she said, it's either one day or day one. That just blew my cranium. It blew my mind, because people dream one day, right? But when you make the switch, day one, it changes the actual trajectory. It changes the energy flow. It changes everything about it, because now you take it from the abstract and you bring it into the natural realm. Okay. That's the difference between a goal and a dream, is that once you take the dream and you put structure to it and you build the actual emphasis or the building blocks to that dream now turns into a goal. It is obtainable, or you create steps to actually attain it. Getting back to the answer, what happened was that, yes, it was always this lofty dream of one day playing professional football. Maybe. And before I go any further, I never want to discourage anyone from having a dream, because outside of God and his love, there is nothing more powerful than the dream. The dream is so powerful. Everything around you right now, whether you're talking to me or you're listening to me or you're in your car, everything started with a dream, from the ashtray, from the car, from the tire, it all starts with that. And that is outside of time. That is outside of anything that we can touch. But once you bring it in and you draw it unto yourself and create the emphasis and the structure around it, then it becomes a goal. So I'm walking down the street. I'm thinking, I'm going to play in the NFL. I'm going to play in the NFL. I'm in junior college. I'm going to play in the NFL. But one day I'm walking down the street and my fraternity brother walks up to me, and I don't know how he knew this. He just stopped me right in the middle, going from class to class. He said, you know what? You're going to play professional football. And I'm like, Julius, shut up. He said, no, you're going to play professional football. And I took a step back, and once, sometimes it takes that outside validation. That's why we need coaches, to see what we can't see. And once he said that, I was able to capture those words and said, now, yes, I'm going to play professional football. You know what it was like? I don't know if anyone's seen that movie called The Matrix. It was like Morpheus. He's like, he's the one, you're the one. And then when he saw the full manifestation of this guy coming to life, he said, he is the one. There's a deeper level of understanding. And when that person spoke those words over me, I yanked them, and then those words became mine. That reality became mine. And the rest is history.
Man, I love that answer. I want to ask you a question selfishly that I've wanted to ask for quite a while. And that is that, for me, I'm a high performance coach. And so I support people to achieve really big things. What I love about your story is that for the longest time, you had a dream or a goal to get into the NFL. And then eventually one day you got that phone call. But that phone call isn't the end of the goal. It's the beginning of the journey, because now the real work starts. You've done the planning, you've done the preparation. But so many people have a goal of like, I want to get this job, or I want to achieve this thing, or I want to have this dollar value, or I want my company to get to this level. And that is their end goal in what they're creating. What was it like for you to receive that phone call to be, invited to join the Rams and then eventually to go and play for the Colts? What was that like to get that initial first phone call that set you up for your dream?
That phone call was amazing. I'm still there. Like right now, I'm in my college apartment and there's just two of us, just me and one of my closest friends. He's sitting there. I know that draft day is happening. I'm watching the draft. I'm supposed to be drafted in a particular round or things like that. And I'm sitting there and then the phone rings. And it's the coach from the Rams. And it was one of the shortest conversations I've ever had. He said, "You ready?" I said, "I'm ready." And I heard him yell, "He's ready." He hung the phone up. Within 30 seconds, that man is sitting there and he said, "Stay on the phone." And he's saying, "We're drafting Shawn Harper." They had the clips already ready to roll, the highlights, the people, fans are yelling. I'm like, wow, this is like a really surreal moment. I hang up the phone. I get in the car and I go celebrate. And so this is a funny story. Me and my best friend, close friend, we drive to Red Lobster. I mean, I'm really celebrating now. It's like a mid seafood spot right in the States. And I'm getting like shrimp because I'm celebrating. And basically that was the essence of the celebration. But you bring up a very powerful point that I've never talked about, but I'm going to talk about from this day forward. You said you prepare and you have the intentions and you have the thought and the emotion and the excitement of the dream, but are you prepared for the journey? And oftentimes we're not prepared for the journey. And it takes a different skill set for the journey. It takes a different mindset for the journey. And one of the things that I've learned, wasn't able to conceptualize it till just now, what prepares you for the journey is as people who've already been on that journey. Like as we speak right now, I have people in my office who've been on the journey and they're coaching me, they're tormenting me, they're challenging me, but they've been on they know what it takes. I never walked this road before. So I'm like wandering in the desert, but now I have people like, no, this is how you get to the other side. I'm like, okay, it's so easy now. So being able to have people to once you accepted the journey, you've arrived, to now walk you through the journey is essential. I'm a strong proponent of having coaching in your life till you retire. You need to have a coach in every aspect of your life, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. There needs to be an individual right there that you can gauge yourself off of, to be the North Star in your life. Spiritually, it's God for me, but I do have a pastor. That person is not, I don't see him as just a pastor now. I see him as a coach. And, I have to redefine that, but have these type of relationships in your life to push you past you.
I took my son to a football game just a week back, and it was his first NFL experience, and I got us great seats, and he had an incredible view. He was watching his favorite team. He loves Kansas City. He loves Patrick Mahomes. He loves watching the excellence in him play, and he was playing our home team, which is the Carolina Panthers. We live in North Carolina, and it was such a great game, but I pointed out to him, look at how many people are on the field right now for each team, and then look at how many people are on the sidelines for each team. And that for every single player, there are multiple people that are sitting on the sidelines, supporting, curating, paying attention to the micro details, because everything is in the details. What was it like playing on a team that was so hyper-focused on achieving such excellence and playing on a team that was achieving such excellence at the time? What was your biggest takeaway from being in the NFL?
So I missed that. I missed that. And up until recently, I realized that I missed that. And I hate to be so macro to micro, but, a few years back, I'm watching a football game and I'm hearing these ladies in the background talk. And they're like, this number such and such. Oh, this person, man, these guys must be like, man, these guys are amazing, like freak of nature athletes. And I'm not going to interrupt their moment. I'm just laughing to myself because they think that these individuals are superhuman, and they're not. The reality is that every football player has at least 10, I was just writing down, at least 10 coaches around him, or in some sports around her. You have the nutritional team. You have the physical therapy team, which is different than the medical team. That's 3 teams right there. You have your position coach. You have the grad assistant. You have a psychological evaluator. You have and then now all the players are hooked up with electrodes. Like I can tell you your heart rate. I can tell you if you're like going through like a heart arrhythmia. I can tell everything about you when you're fatigued, when I need to pull you out. There are so many coaches. When I played football, we had tutors, just every aspect of your life to push it to the next level. Because what happens is that if you're like really great at this level, but you're missing it and you're hurting at this level, the pressure finds the weakest spot. So guess what? You might have a breakdown, or you might, have some form of a physical relapse because you're not prepared physically, or you may have a mental relapse because you're not prepared mentally. When the pressure hits, which is very good, the pressure always finds the path of least resistance. So you have to make sure that you're A1 game at every aspect of your life. When pressure or when you're under stress physically, the stress will manifest in the weakest area of your body. It's my knees. That I feel it. My knees start. Why is my knees aching? Why is my lower back hurting? That's stress. That's where it's finding the weakest aspect. Every part of your life has to be tightened.
I want to talk about stress next, but I want to just preface something that you said that I think so many people could take value from, and I'm so glad that you mentioned it. Tom Brady, hailed as one of the greatest players in the NFL, if not the greatest quarterback of all time. He has a documentary where they focus in on what he was doing in one of his off seasons, and he had hired 3 coaches, the best in the business, and all he wanted them to do was to look at how he rotated his hip. Not his throwing arm, not his feet, just the turn of his hip, because he identified that was his weakest spot, and that if he could rotate the hip a fraction of a second faster, he could get the ball out a fraction of a second faster, and he would have one up on somebody else. But people don't apply that same amount of intensity into their life. What if we were to take what you were talking about in the NFL and having at least 10 coaches in our corner as it relates to all the areas of our life? And, you mentioned right now, a coach can be your pastor. A coach can be your friend Julius. A coach can be somebody who is supporting you in achieving something. And then, yes, you have to read books of people that have done or achieved something that you've done so that you can learn from them, so you can move through faster. You can hire people to be able to move you forward. And that's what's so important, is not enough people are investing in themselves, because the NFL invests in the players, but how many players would have invested in themselves if it wasn't a team that was doing the investing for them? And I think that if we were to take that and apply it into our lives, we could achieve so much more.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to throw this example on there because there might not be enough Brady fans in there. But look at LeBron James. He has an inner council. Okay. And there's about, 10 to 12 people. I don't know the exact number, so, don't quote me, but he has an inner council of people, and those individuals cover him, protect him, push him to where he can have intimate moments, weak moments. It doesn't matter. We're going to the next level. They're not called to, and it's very important. Very important. What I'm about to tell you. Very important. You have to discern when people are in your life. Are they called to the mission, or are they called to you? And never confuse the two. Because there are some people who are called to the mission. When the mission changes, they're gone. And then there's a few people who are called to you, and they're there through thick and thin. You have to realize, and you got to treat them differently. So he has an inner circle of people, trainers, doctors, nutritionists. That's his inner circle, which allowed him to play, 20 years professional NBA basketball at a very high level. It's doable. One of the challenges is that it's not encouraged and it's not taught. It's not practiced or preached enough. Like, if you go to Barnes & Noble, remember Barnes & Noble? You ever go to the self-help section in Barnes & Noble? You have about 1 billion books. And you know what? All the secrets are in the book of what to do, how to do this, high achievement, blah, blah, blah. But you need somebody to come into your space and to push you and to antagonize you, to promote you to greatness. You have to have a coach.
I absolutely love that. I wanted to go back and touch on something that you had started to allude to, and it's one of the questions I had pre-thought to ask you for this interview. I work with people inside of business, mostly inside of business, and supporting them to achieve their highest and their greatest potential. And the biggest thing that holds people back is fear and or stress. And I don't want to mix the two up because they're two completely separate things. But in the NFL, I would say that is probably one of the most high stressed environments. Every single day, you are fighting for your job. Every single game, you're fighting for inches. Those inches determine who you're going to be. You were an offensive lineman. And so every single time you're on the field, you're jobbing to say like, hey, I need to keep my seat. And I would imagine when you are wanting to make sure you keep your job, you can't focus on at the same time about doing your job. What was it like working under such a heightened state of stress? Because we all know that in heightened stress, you lose logic, reason, inspiration, intuition, creativity. You lose your ability to be yourself. And in that moment, you've gone into fear, fight or flight, and you're in survival. And so your focus moves from winning the game or being good in the game or doing and trusting what you've been taught to now you're having to defend. And it's in the defending that the fear creeps in. And that's why I spoke about fear and stress at the same time within the NFL. And yet, so many NFL players do it with absolute ease.
Yeah, that's probably one of the soft skills that should be a hard skill. And what I'm talking about is individual focus, is compartmentalization. Can you separate? I mean, let's just take it one step deeper. Imagine all the off-field issues that this athlete's going through. He might be going through a divorce, he have financial problems, or this is going on, or he has stress at home. His mom could be in the hospital and all that. You got to be able to block all of that out and focus on one play at a time. That is a very good analogy. I'm about to question the fact that did you play sports, because a lot of people don't understand that, is to be able to focus on one play at a time and to have that mindset that if you live in the past, you'll die in the present. That was last play, focus on the next play, and you got to execute. When I mean the word execute, you have to execute with, a precision that the higher you go up in sports, there's no room for forgiveness. There's no room for error. Like I was at a football game over the weekend and I saw a person miss 2 field goals that he has made, probably about 100 times in his collegiate career. He missed 2 critical field goals. What happened? Well, it could have been, and it probably was, that the moment was too big, that he lost focus. If you could be a great kicker, you could be the best of the best, the creme de la creme. But if one of those pieces are off, if the hip is tight, it was cold outside, if you lose focus, if the game is too big for you at that moment, you blow it. So everything has to be 100% on. So being able to compartmentalize and break stuff down into tiny seconds is critical.
Man, I could just keep asking you thousands and thousands of questions on what we've spoken about, but I want to support our audience as best as what we can. And I think that your journey has really left behind some incredible clues. No wonder you're a 2 times best-selling author. But I want to encourage people to be able to go and seek out your books in Barnes & Noble or on Amazon and learn more from you through the story of yours. And so I want to pivot just ever so slightly. So many people identify with themselves for who they are or what it is that they've done. You were just speaking into now that your single play is is over as soon as it's over, and then you're focusing on the next one. You know, I did not play any organized sport. I played backyard sport with my friends. I went to a really small school, 14 kids in my graduating class, but I used the same principle in business. You know, your next move is your next move.
Right.
And so what I want to really focus in on for a second is if you, and I think this is really important, you know, you started playing, and I've done some homework. You started playing football in the 2nd grade. And then all of a sudden you pivoted, and let's say Julius was instrumental in that shift for you, saying, hey man, you're going to play in the NFL. And then you started thinking, what would it look like? And then eventually you got into the NFL, you got the phone call, you went to the Rams, then you went to Colts. You did what so few people do. And I want to put this into perspective. Less than 0.02% of players make it into the NFL, and you made it into the NFL. And then one day you get cut and you're no longer in the NFL. And that's all you've identified with since the 2nd grade was you're a football player, and you have a thriving career today, having taken what you learned through that sport, what you learned through the NFL, and you're now teaching it inside of companies as a keynote speaker, as an author. But I would argue it must have been really hard to go from being a player in the NFL, having achieved everything you've wanted, to all of a sudden waking up one day and you're no longer in the NFL.
Right. So imagine, let's just unpack that for a quick second, you know, because this is a very, very serious and sensitive point. Imagine, as you mentioned, playing since the 2nd grade. So it is now engrafted as a part of my identity. 2nd grade. And then I went to middle school. All of high school, you know, it justified everything. That's Shawn Harper, the NFL football player. Shawn Harper, the high school football player. Shawn Harper, the college. That's Big Harp. It was my nickname, right? So you go through that, junior college, 4-year college, professional football. It is a part of your identity. So number one, the soft skills that you would normally learn, you don't need to learn. I don't need to know how to network because people want to network with me. I don't need all the soft skills that you got to learn how to do this and schmooze and navigate. I don't need all that stuff. I'm an NFL football. Everyone's trying to get close to me, right? And so you're on the receiving end of so much, getting let in free in parties, doing this and blah, blah, blah. And then one day it's over. It doesn't slow down. It's over just like that. Now, in the reality is over. Your body, with the inertia of Newton's law of inertia, your body is still moving. There's a disconnect. And now it's like your body's like, I need to train. I need to get ready. So every fall, okay, this is 100% true. Every fall, I would start getting, for years, like 10 to 12 years, I get so restless. Like, why am I getting restless? Every time I would go into a high school or college locker room and smell the equipment, I'm like, everything would change. My eyes, everything. It's like I'm being reverted back. I'm getting ready for football season. And now take the constant hitting and taking now the actual implant from the hitting of the thoughts of competition in your mind. It is really, really intense. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of players don't make that transition. So they'll stay close to the game. They'll become coaches or consultants or, you know, or sales where they could talk about football, and because they can't separate themselves from that. It's really hard. It's really hard to separate yourself. And people don't do a good job of letting you do that, by the way. It's like, okay, you used to play football. Yeah, it isn't. So what are you doing now? You know, but what I've done was I said, you know what? I'm not going to try no more. I'm still playing football, right? I'm still playing the sport. So corporate is now my arena. It's, you know, this jacket is my uniform. And the way I look at things is because I've never really had a job my entire life. I've never had a job. Okay. I've never clocked a clock in my entire life. Football, this is now the sport that I play. And I approach it that way. I study competition like I study film. I don't look for a competitive advantage. I look for an edge, just something a little bit different. I look at something, I specialize in the differentials in life, because like when I speak, I rip phone books and do crazy things. Why? Because no one else does, right? Because as an athlete, I'm always looking for the edge. I'm not looking for the competitive advantage to compete with you. No, I'm looking for something that you ain't got, baby. That's how I think. I'm not trying to become corporate no more, because as you mentioned, 0.02% of any athlete makes it to the NFL for 1 year. Imagine if I apply that to corporate and in life. And I've won and I'm winning. And I pray to God that I keep on winning with him first and foremost.
I love that, with him. So my question to you is, The Winning Edge is your best-selling book. What would somebody gain from reading The Winning Edge?
Yeah. So I've learned, and I mean, I don't take this as a badge of honor. It is what it is. I break rules, but I never break laws. Basically, if you were to sum up The Winning Edge, it's just a set of laws that I govern my life by, that has allowed me to exist. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm a vampire, right? Listen to this. And the reason why is because when you look at the sum total of me on the outside, you're like, and you watch me, you're like, I see you. I don't know how you do what you do, right? And I have people like, they don't like me, right? And I meet people that like, and the reason why is because they know that you're not supposed to be here. But like a vampire who drinks blood, he can live like 2,000 or 3,000 of years, right? 5,000 years. The Winning Edge is principles that I live my life on, that I've learned first and foremost from the Word of God, right? That I live my life on, that has allowed me to exist and to thrive in a lot of seasons. Like the Lord, showed me, my mom showed me originally how to give, how to sow seed into people's lives, how to sow words, how to forgive, the law of capacity. When God called Abram out of where he was to another location, I want to bless you, but I got to move you to bless you. Sometimes it's a capacity issue. You have to change locale. So just all those things, I just put them in some chapters, changed up the words because I don't want to offend nobody. And that's what I try to live my life on. When an airplane flies, do you imagine how many laws are in operation? You got the law of lift, you got the law of propulsion, you got the law of whatever other, you got about 50 laws working just to get that plane in the air. I break rules. I never break laws, because if you break laws, laws will break you.
So I want to ask, as a closing question for our interview, you have lived a very colorful life, but you've clearly had a lot of people that have been support in your corner. You just mentioned your mom, and you beautifully articulated what your mom taught you, or what was some of the greatest lessons. I'm sure there were many more that your mom gave you, but I would love to know, what was your greatest lesson that you think that you've brought forward into your life, that you've gained from both God and that you've gained from the NFL, because you've already cited both of those as your two biggest causes for success? What would you say are those two big lessons, one from God, one from the NFL, that you've taken from the incredible career that you've had?
So why don't I sum them up both at the same, and allow me to, let God, because thank you for giving me that caveat right there, because he is the reason of my total existence, plain and simple, because I should be dead. And I don't have time to share those stories with you about 4 or 5 times. Okay. I live my life on 3 words: live, give, and forgive. That's what I live my life off of. And so I'm learning more and more how to live in the moment. I talked about this at our company anniversary. There's moments, there's momentum, and then there's memories. And when we're younger, we spend so much energy creating momentum that we don't live in the moment. And then when we get older, the moments become memories. And now we're living in the past so much because it's a different place, because you don't want to deal with the moment. And so learning how to deal and to live in the moment, to drink it like a very good port, is what I'm learning to do more and more. Give. Okay. My mom raised all 6 of us, and God told her if she gives $20 to the poor every month, that he will always take care of her. I don't share that story all the time, but my mom would make me sit down, and she drank a whole bunch of coffee with a little bit of milk. I drank a whole bunch of milk and a little bit of coffee. And she would take that $20 that she got as being a maid, and she would put it in the envelope, and she would send it to Africa to feed kids. Every single month, I watched her do that. And we've never went without. We had the best Christmases. We've struggled, but God always blessed us. It's a different system when you give. And then the last one is I said live, I said give, and I forgive. Forgiveness, man, I tell you what, that right there, learning how to forgive and to unhinge yourself from situations and circumstances allows you to live freely in the present and to look to the future. Live, give, forgive. 90% of so many diseases is from bitterness, anger, and unforgiveness. We spend the first 20 years from 20 to 40, being infected with so much, and we spend the rest of our lives after 40 trying to get free from it. So on the daily, forgive, release, repent. Forgive, release, repent.
The most beautiful word you used in that was unhinged, because it so beautifully describes how we hold on to something that we could so easily forgive. So that's live, give, and forgive. What beautiful words were spoken. So I would love for you to...
whatever you hold in. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Finish that sentence.
Okay. Whatever you hold in holds you in the end. And so the $1 million question is, what is holding you and what are you holding on to? Because I can hold on to something amazing. Like I hold on to God. God holds me in the end. So whatever you hold in will hold you in the end. Bitterness, anger, forgiveness, or joy, love, and peace.
Man, that was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. So I've got a closing question for you that's 2-part. And I would love for you to have a conversation with somebody that is aspiring to do something great in their life. Doesn't have to be playing for a professional football team. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's going to college. Maybe it's, getting out of a bad relationship and getting into a good one. But if you were going to give somebody some advice, thinking back to old little Shawn Harper, I don't think you were ever little, but little Shawn Harper.
No, I was never little. I was teased for not being little. It was like, that's okay. It's cool.
So if you were going to give yourself or somebody who is wanting to achieve greatness some advice, a single sentence, a statement, what would that be? And then my second follow-up to that is, if you were going to give advice to somebody that has just lost something, they've identified themselves in that thing, and you were going to give them some support to move out of that place. Maybe it's a relationship, a marriage, a job, a career, a sport identity. What would those 2 closing bits of advice be?
You know what? I am just enamored with what I said earlier, either one day or day one. You have to start. You have to start, and you have to be willing to not look at it as failure, look at it as tuition. Real quick, I had a situation happen with my son. It was a major blunder. And I mean, it's a major blunder. Okay. I'm not going to get into it because no one knows about it except for me and him. Nobody. And I said, son, what did you learn? He said, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this. I said, it's not failure. It's called tuition. Okay. And the second one is the secret. One of the secrets to winning in life is persistence through resistance. If you can look up, you can get up. Course correction is the secret to the game. Like, I am so blown away by another South African, Elon Musk. I am so blown away because I remember when he first started launching rockets, everyone laughed at this guy. They laughed at him. They were like, you're so foolish. A rocket go up and come back down. NASA can't even do that. I heard the conversations. They're not laughing now. Electric car, you so stupid. No one does that. They've got electric car now. Satellites, you can't have 400 satellites in the air. Oh yeah, well, he's doing it now. Persistence through resistance and looking up to get up. That's the secret. The average millionaire, according to Google, has filed for bankruptcy 3.2 times. Google it. You'll see it right there. They have filed for bankruptcy 3.2 times.
Those were such powerful closing words. I'm a huge Elon Musk, not as a person fan, but as what he has achieved fan. And I think that excellence always leaves incredible clues. That's why I study people that achieve greatness in life. Whether we're looking at, Tiger Woods going to Tom Brady or Elon Musk, it's always leaving so many unbelievable clues. You and this podcast episode have left so many clues. It is purely 40 minutes of absolute gold. And I just want to thank you for your time. I love to start and end conversations by just reminding you that time is by far our most invaluable gift that we get. And, you know, you've spent time with us and you've poured into us so beautifully. And I know that you'll be receiving that back tenfold. To the audience that has listened, I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time on the InPowered Life podcast. I hope that you're going to take so much value from this episode. And I would love to hear from you. Tag Shawn and I in what was your greatest takeaway that you have taken from this episode. But more importantly, what is one thing that you're going to take from this and put into your life to create the impact? Because you've come here to do something great. We've all come here to be great. And it's now just the difference of whether you're going to take a step. Is it for you right now? Is it a one day? Or is it day one? Shawn Harper, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. So much love to you, man.
Hey, you know what? Be blessed. And as a parting, www.shawnharper.co. You can get a free copy of my book digital, but you got to put the www part in there. It's free. Of course, it's going to ask you to, sign up for, you can skip that if you want. I don't care, but I want to give you a blessing because it doesn't come to you if it can't get through you.
So we're going to put your website into the show notes. We're also going to put your links to social media and obviously tag both your books in. But I want to say thank you so much for leaving the audience with an incredible gift. Shawn, if somebody wants to reach you or do some work with you, what's the best place for them to find you?
Website. You can go to ShawnHarperWins.com. Would love your feedback. And your input, or if that's too complex, just go to any search engine, type in Shawn Harper, Shawn with a W. My information will come up. You can find me from there.
Well, we appreciate you so much. Have an amazing day. And to everybody that listens to the episode, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you in the next episode of the InPowered Life.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.